I was just doing what any mum would do. There was nothing weird. I'm breastfeeding public. The day later, my life turned itself upside down.
Sport's always been a big passion of mine, but I know that it's not that way for everybody. A whopping 64% of girls quit sport by the time they hit puberty, and 1 in 3 midlife women are not getting enough exercise. So why? Well, outdated gender stereotypes, periods, childbirth, bladder weakness, which affects 1 in 3 women over the age of 35. The list goes on. And that's why the Sun have teamed up with TENA, and we're going to be speaking to some inspirational women about their relationships with sport so that we can work it out. Today, we have a woman whose name literally describes her. It's ultrarunner Sophie Power. So, Sophie, you've literally just come off the back of setting a new world record.
So a few days ago, I set the world record for the longest distance on a treadmill in 48 hours.
I mean, the fact that you're here and able to string a sentence together is quite remarkable. What drives you to do something like that?
For me, it's about how do I inspire women to take on challenges? How do I empower them? Because I really do believe that when we set out to do something we're not quite sure we can achieve and then we break that, that gives us so much confidence in the rest of our lives.
Firstly, running. Have you always been a runner?
No. I was the unsporty kid at school.
Really? No way.
I was second last in the mile.
What a message that sends to girls and women out there who have this belief.
Girls as young as 5 don't believe they're as sporty as boys. 5. We drop out of sport at an earlier rate.
We have to talk about that incredible photograph that went viral where I think you were breastfeeding your second child, 50 miles into an ultra marathon.
It's such an iconic race and it's so hard to get into, and you've got to run races to qualify and then you're lucky in a ballot, and I'd lost my place when I was pregnant with my first son because they wouldn't let me defer it for pregnancy. Pregnancy was a choice in their opinion. Injury, you could defer your entry.
Obviously.
It took me 4 years to get another place. And I found out I was pregnant with Cormac and he'd only be 3 months on the start line. I'm just going to enjoy the start line experience.
So you got on the start line, talk us through the race.
It was a logistical nightmare because you start at night. It was 16 hours to that halfway point, which is the first time I could see him. I've got these boobs filling up, and I'm basically squeezing them out behind trees, down toilets, doing whatever I can. There's no pumps being carried around a course like there would be now. So I was in so much agony. I was so happy he was hungry. I was just doing what any mum would do. There was nothing weird. I'm breastfeeding public. The day later, my life turned itself upside down. So many thousands of women were empowered to breastfeed in public.
I know when I had my baby, I didn't feel like my body was mine. I almost felt like I didn't have a right to my own body.
I think I had postpartum depression after my first, partly because I couldn't be physically active and I had 3 months without being able to run, and I'd lost part of myself.
I think it's fair to give your husband a little shout out as well. I watched your video on YouTube and it was your husband encouraging you to get up to your training room in those early weeks after giving birth to your 3rd child.
He's always the one that's saying, what do you want to do next? What can we do? And I just signed him up for a race, so it works both ways.
In fact, it's really interesting because the whole video was made because you were aiming to do an ultra race, but it actually didn't turn out that way, did it? You found out you had a prolapse on camera.
I thought that's what happened to old women, people like me.
But actually, it's very, especially in those early few weeks and months after giving birth to a baby, having had multiple, it's actually very common.
It's most women.
Yeah.
And we don't realise because we don't get checked out.
When you had the 6-week check and you found out you had the prolapse, had you had any symptoms or was it a complete shock?
So it was such a shock, but then it was, okay, what do we do about it? And I wish I could look back and see myself now and go, it's going to be okay, because it was so dark. And I didn't know where I was going to get to, and I'm here now.
You're getting emotional.
It's
talking about it.
It's so. We just deserve to do what we want to do. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Well, at the end of that film, this is what's so great about it and what gives people hope. You were actually very deflated, but you were being very sensible in saying, I need to do this now to look after my body and rebuild the strength slowly so that I can be better than I've ever been before in the future. And here we are today, and you've set 2 world records in 2 years and just run for 48 hours. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm very much inspired and be following whatever you do next.
Thanks for having me.
That's it for this episode. Please do stay tuned for the next one.